Like if they've stopped retail CBDC, it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll stop the wholesale side or that they'll implement the wholesale side in a different way. They won't implement it with a CBDC project necessarily. They may implement it with DLT, right? Digital ledger, distributed ledger technology, like the EU is doing right now. The EU has 48 countries all in one project for a DLT project, right? So they're really trying everything. So if they're saying no to CBDC, it does not necessarily mean that they stop playing. They're playing and they'll find a way.
The way you're describing that, it immediately hit me that the Federal Reserve could be using FedWire to get to the commercial banks, and then permit the commercial banks to issue regulated stablecoins.
Sure. And
those regulated stablecoins could then make it into your checking account, and you don't even realize it, but you opted in a public-private partnership.
Exactly. There are many ways that this could come about, and we don't know what the way is going to look like. And in fact, I believe that it's going to look different in different countries. Every country is going to have its own flavor of this implementation, and every country will be connected to other countries in one way or another. Mm-hmm. The why, the how question, in what specific way it's going to be implemented, is it CBDC or DLT or wholesale or blah, blah, it doesn't really matter. They'll come up with their own formula, and there's a lot of politics and geopolitics involved there, because the BRICS nations obviously don't necessarily want to help other nations. And in fact, I think a lot of it is bullshit and they're all playing the same game, but let's pretend that thing is real and they're really rivals of each other.
Right.
Then they're going to pretend that they don't want to do business with each other, and they're going to create their own cohorts and in terms of coalitions and stuff, monetary coalitions. Right. But what's important to remember is that what is being created right now, in my view, is like the next Bretton Woods. This is the time, like this decade from 2020 to 2030 is a time where the pawns on the chessboard are being reshuffled. Mm-hmm. The countries are receiving their own or they're fighting for their roles on the board. They're trying to understand who's leading, who's dominating, who's doing what first, and what's working, what's not working. It's chaotic. It's all over the place. But that's the stage we're in. And so while it's very interesting to watch this unravel and take shape, it's also a bit of to me, it's like a Netflix. Like, there's nothing we can do about it. This is going to happen. So, I mean, I'm enjoying covering this topic because it's so funny to see what's happening. I mean, I'll show you some examples soon so you'll understand what I mean, because they're trying to reinvent the wheel. They're like trying to rebuild layer one of Bitcoin once again.
Right.
And it's hard for them, and they're not necessarily succeeding, but they're trying.
Let me ask you this, because it's interesting to watch governments let Bitcoin in through ETFs and through talk like of the SBR, et cetera, to start introducing Bitcoin into sovereign wealth funds around the world.
Right.
With all this happening, so let's just call this Bitcoin adoption at the sovereign level.
Yeah.
At the same time, I see them following the same path that a lot of early Bitcoiners do. They discover Bitcoin and then they shitcoin, and they start thinking about how it can impact everything. So are they going to play all these games and then discover that they, like what just happened to Javier Milei, right? So you play all these games, you figure out Bitcoin, you play the shitcoin games, you break stuff, you lose money. Are they going to fail at this?
Look, we can't predict the future because the future is based on free will, and each will do their own, and it's really hard to predict. But yes, they're going to play around with all that shit, and they are doing it, and it's not working. And that's why it's so funny to watch. Right. And in fact, this is the second time I think that Milei is doing something like that, like involved in shitcoinery. It's not like he didn't know.
Right.
So there's, we're going to discover some really crappy stuff going forward. And I think it's going to be fun. Now, to your question with Bitcoin, I think a lot of countries are going to try and follow Bukele's model because they'll see that longish term, he is more successful than others. But I think that they will definitely have a national stable coin because they will see what the US is doing with stable coins.
Yeah, right.
So you'll probably have a Bitcoin reserve for each nation plus a national stable coin to be that bridge between traditional finance and cryptocurrencies. And in some countries, you'll have CBDCs implemented. There will be countries that retail CBDC will carry on, will be a thing. Like in Israel, it will probably be a thing. In the EU, with the digital euro, I believe, is going to go ahead. In China, it's already happening. In India, it's happening, and it's just accelerating all the time in India. In Brazil, I think it's shaping up really nicely with the DREX. They have had really successful implementation of a central bank payment app during COVID. I think it started in around 2021 or 2020, where the central bank issued this payment app that caught on. Like everyone's on it now. It's like your Venmo, but it's a central bank app in Brazil, and Brazil is huge, right? And now they're adding their DREX, which is their CBDC capabilities, onto it. Like if you merge the two together, you get the ultimate, you get your digital blockchain platform. That's what they want.
Right.
So each country will have it in a slightly different way. But they're all playing around with all the different options now. And it's really interesting also when I do my research for my presentations to go through documents and videos of central bankers around the world, because I kind of spy after them, and you see how it's just really funny to watch. Like when I show you'll
those
understand.
Videos in your presentation blew my mind because I mean you've really captured the truth from behind the scenes, and these people, when you hear them explaining the benefits of their program, for somebody like us in Bitcoin, it's horrifying. I mean, it's just disgusting to listen to the way they talk about it.
Yes. And they are describing it as the biggest gift to humanity.
Yes.
The CBDC is like, it's from your bank that you can trust, and it's immediate, and it's safe, and it's private. We're never going to take a look at your data. It's like they're lying up front.
And at the same time, I've heard on a number of those recordings you made, people say stuff like, in an emergency, we'll have this capability, or should some catastrophe arrive, this system could be rapidly adopted.
Right.
Like
so
that
I think it's the Israeli central banker.
Before, right? With COVID, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
A virus is coming someday, right? And this stuff is eerily similar. And when you've been through those, if you're our age and you've been through a couple of those, you begin to immediately recognize that language, and you can just see them setting the table.
So you've heard Bitcoin is the new gold rush by now. As world leaders on all sides have endorsed it as the future of money, and now you're looking to get started, we'll show you how. It's actually easier than you think. First, go to your nearest Byte Federal ATM and turn your cash to coin. Byte Federal has over 1,200 locations around the country with the highest daily limits. Go to our website, bytefederal.com, to find the nearest ATM to you. Log in to any wallet, then create an account, deposit your US cash, and instantly convert it to Bitcoin. That's it. We are the only US manufacturer and operator in the Bitcoin ATM industry, and our US-based live customer service is second to none. Go on, give it a whirl, and don't get left behind. Click the link below.